Welcome to Not Just a Transaction, a podcast series hosted by experienced real estate authorities Nick Prefontaine and Zachary Beach. In each episode, the hosts bring you expert guests to help you navigate the many creative options available for buying or selling a home, while cutting out the costly hurdles of a conventional real estate deal.
Hey everybody, this is Zachary Beach.
And this is Nick Prefontaine.
And welcome to another podcast episode of Not Just a Transaction. I'll always be wearing my seller hat here because I always work with the sellers, and Nick will always be wearing his buyer's hat here because he works with the
My hat has a capital B on it.
He's not wearing a hat if you're just listening to this. He's
Capital
lying.
B.
And if you happen to be speaking with us and we happen to be in a different seat, then one of us is on vacation. So let's dive into today's episode where we're going to answer, why are we different? We get asked this from many different buyers and sellers. So if we kind of looked at this from an overall standpoint, we're different because we focus on a very specific solution to both buyers and sellers, and that's more in the creative financing or the rent-to-own space. Especially in this day and age, more and more both buyers and sellers need our help or our creativity. But there's also a bunch of other things that make us different, especially if you niche down further, because you're starting to realize, and I'm sure if you're a seller out there, you've gotten phone call from many other real estate investors now that are asking, hey, are you open to a lease purchase? Or, hey, are you open to owner financing? And we're going to talk about today why we are the foremost expert in that field and why we're different. So, Nick, let's go ahead. I'll kick it over to you. And how are we different from the buyer side?
Zach, that's a great question. And I think what sets us apart, everything that we're doing from the very beginning of working with our buyers is making sure that we're setting them up for success. That means that they are successfully transitioning from being that of a renter to a buyer. It also means that they are, in fact, getting their own loans at the end of their rent-to-own agreements. I know that I have touched upon this in previous episodes, but really it's worth repeating. Within the next 30 days, we have 2 of our properties that are actually closing, and those closings are already scheduled. Both of those buyers are our rent-to-own buyers that are getting their own loans. Earlier today, I was on the phone with a buyer of ours that should be ready to schedule their closing before the end of the year. And then right before that, I spoke with another one. She should be ready before the end of the year as well. It's really gratifying and satisfying to see, Zach, that we actually have our buyers that are getting their own loans and completing the rent-to-own deal. I've also, all this week, I've been working on speaking with all the sellers who we entered into agreements years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, and we cashed out, meaning the buyer got their own loan and their hands are washed of the home and they no longer have to worry about it. The common thread that I kept coming up was you guys actually did what you said you were going to do. You finished the deal. You got the buyer to the finish line, or if something, God forbid, happened, you were still able to live up to your word and cash the property out.
So this does work, Nick? Is that what you're saying?
This
actually works.
It's strange to throw it out there, but it does actually work. And I think, Zach, the difference that I see is that we really care. We really care about getting our buyers to the finish line, whereas a lot of the investors that are out there will gladly take buyers' down payment, stick them into a home, and hope they never get their own loan on the property, and that way they can do another rent-own agreement. this is even being taught today. And when I say being taught today, it's being taught from the stage of gurus and speakers teaching real estate right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Now, that might be a profitable model, but, it stinks. Just like everyone says, like, we all have buttholes and they all stink. So let's hope that you're not running into some of these real estate investors. And that's why we're here on this podcast, to make sure that if you do choose the route, or if you are in need of a solution that's outside the traditional market, that you're working with the right real estate investors to help you get the success and get you all the way to the finish line. And Nick, who said you could speak to my sellers?
They actually all raved about you, Zach.
Oh, I'm happy to hear it.
I just spoke with one. She said that Zach called me out of the blue, and I'm so thankful you guys reached out to me and called me. And I think one of the things that we haven't mentioned yet, Zach, is that we are accredited with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and we have been since 2014. And really going right along with the title of this show, to us, it's not just a transaction. The whole reason that we're doing this and that we titled it that is, that's really a part of everything that we do. We want people to get to the finish line, and we want to finish the transaction.
That's it, Nick.
To become homeowners.
You're right. We want to finish the transaction. So let's dive onto the other side, which is, Nick already mentioned it, that we care. We don't just care about our buyers. We also care about our sellers. I think that's rather important, that through the entire company, everybody cares about all parties involved, because we know that it doesn't only just affect one person. It tends to affect generations of people on both sides. Next, we specialize and have done these types of transactions. We've done hundreds of them. And Nick talked about people from stages, because we have coached hundreds of real estate investors nationally. So we've been involved in thousands of these deals, and we know that morally and ethically that you should set up these deals and these types of transactions for success on all parties. If only one party wins, it does not make for a good transaction. We're a different type of real estate company, and that is, we want to see all parties succeed there. And also, Nick mentioned it as well, but I just throw it on the other side. We have systems and processes set up for the sellers as well to be successful. Plus, we are extremely creative. We have seen every single type of deal out there, every single type of property that sellers presented, type of nuances that go along with the property, different financial nuances, or properties that are maybe not in as good a shape, maybe have some problems there, all the way to these multi-million-dollar houses that just cannot find a buyer for certain reasons, like bank regulations. So we've come across every single type of nuance you could think of. So our creativity on these types of transactions are through the roof, because we can help solve people's problems, because we can think outside the box. And then lastly, I would just say we have a major network that we've aligned with to make sure that these transactions are successful, such as, we know that we're not the specialists when it comes to credit repair or credit enhancement. Like, I know that that's not my specialty. And we also know that we're not the specialists in lending mortgages. That's not what we do. So we've aligned ourselves with the best of the best in the area in order to make sure that if we don't have the answer, that we can go to the people that do have the answer, and to continue to keep this thing moving, because the number one thing that matters is that all parties eventually win in this type of transaction, and that everyone gets to the finish line. That's what makes us different. Everybody, thank you for another episode of Not Just a Transaction. Everybody have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next week.
Look forward to helping everyone out there real soon. Thanks for listening to another episode of Not Just a Transaction. If you want to explore selling a home, buying a home, or resources to learn more, go to prepropertysolutions.com.